welcome to Waldorf Wonder Things. Today we're creating little Christmas elves. Before we start our little elf, we need to gather our supplies. First I have the pattern, which is the body and the hood. I have some cotton fabric, which has a nice Christmas print on it. Skin fabric. I have a red beeswax crayon and a scrap piece of skin fabric for colouring cheeks. Cotton thread. This is a cotton thread as well, it's just a bit thicker and stronger. Cotton gauze. I have some wool roving for making the head and the hands and for stuffing the body. Some embroidery thread, pins, needle, a little red ribbon to finish. I also use a chopstick, pencil, some scissors, snips, and some pliers. Okay, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is to make a mini doll head. I'm not going to put the instructions how to do that here, as I already have 2 videos explaining how to do that. I'll put the link in the descriptions for both of those. The first one is called How to Make a Mini Waldorf Doll Head, and the second one is How to Embroider Eyes on Your Waldorf Mini Doll. So when you've made your doll head, you need to pin our body pattern to our fabric. I'm going to take our pencil and draw an outline on our fabric. So now that I've got that, I'm going to cut out. I'm not going to cut out on this line, but I'm going to leave a bit of a seam allowance. So first thing that I do to help me is to cut it out about this big. So that makes it a little easier to work with. Now I'm going to cut around here to give a bit of a seam allowance, not too much. Now, quite carefully, I'm just putting a tiny little snip just a little further up here. And to release this fabric here when you turn it inside out, we just want to put a little snip in the corner there. Just like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the pattern, but I want to keep this in the same position. So I'm just going to re-pin it as I take my pattern off. So our pattern now looks like this. What I'm going to do now is with my sewing machine, I'm going to sew the top of the arms and then from the bottom of the arm here around the bottom around here before I turn it inside out. Next I'm going to cut out the hood. I have my hood pattern pinned to my fabric. This time I'm just going to cut straight along the edge of this pattern. I don't need to draw around it, I'll just cut it straight out. And now this one's ready for sewing. I'll put my pins away and bring out the sewing machine. I've just finished sewing the body for their elf. Now I'm going to move on and do the hood while I still have my machine out. First I'm going to do each side of the hood, 2 little hems, and then I'll do the bottom. As you can see, I'm going to do a very, very scant seam allowance. It's just 0.5 centimetre, a few millimetres here. Cut your tails. Fold it and do the other side. You can press here to make a little fold so it's easier to hold while you're sewing. Now I'm going to do this side, but I'm going to leave this side. Now we should have something that looks like this. We have 3 hem sides and a raw side. So what we're going to do, right sides together, fold it together and keep it like this. Now on our raw edge, so it might help if I just turn this way. So So this is the face. This is where the face will be. So along the bottom here, this is where the neck's going to sit. At the back, where the raw edge is, we're going to sew this little section closed. Just the back. So start halfway. Bad things are wrong. And now we've got the front bit, which is still open, but the back bit has been sewn together. Now I'm going to take my pencil the right way up, and I'm going to mark where that halfway point is, and on the back as well. Now I'm going to draw a line, not quite halfway, just a little less than that. This is my halfway point, and this is my line starting here. My halfway point, and that's where my line goes. With my scissors, I'm going to cut, not on the line, but just next to it. So you can see I almost have another little seam allowance here. Now, on that line, we're going to do a row of stitches on that line. Okay, now our hood should look like this. I'm just going to quickly sew this back piece up here. Okay, so now I have the back piece closed, the diagonal piece, and the front piece is open. So that's my hood done on the inside. I'll trim it up a bit so those bits don't poke out. Now we fold it in the other way. Use a little chopstick to get those points out. And that's our hood ready for the head. So we'll put that away. Now we'll attach the hands to the body. To make your hands, you'll need a piece of skin fabric. This is about 2 inches by 2 inches. It's about a 2-inch square. You need a tiny little bit of wool roving, your strong tying string, and some scissors. Now, first take a little bit of your wool roving. So then I test by just putting it in the fabric and bringing all of the fabric up and drawing it around. I can look at that and I decide, is that a good size? So if I want to adjust, all I need to do is take a little bit extra and test again, or just simply take a little bit out until you're happy with the size. So then bring all of the edges up together. Just keep feeling with it until you're happy with the shape and the size. Now what you want to do is take your string while you're holding your little hand so it doesn't come undone. Get ready to make a knot. Slip that over your hand and wrap a couple of times. If you're happy with it, go ahead and tie a knot. If not, you can always just do this again. So you want to tie a double knot so it doesn't come undone. We're just going to trim that. Now you want to go ahead and make another hand. Oh, I might just trim this as well, the bottom. So everything's nice and tidy, and now you've got a little hand ready to go into your body. So just make another one of those and then we'll attach them. The next thing we're going to do is add our hands to our little elf. So you can see on the edge of the arm here, I still have a raw edge. I'm going to take my little hand and put it into the opening ball first. Not all the way. As you can see, I still have this line that I drew on here when I was outlining my pattern. So I'm going to follow that as a guide. I'll have to imagine it on the other side because I don't have it on this side. Now I'll take my needle and thread. I wouldn't normally use this colour. I've just used it today so we can see what's going on. So the first thing I'll do is to secure it in place with a double knot before I start working around. Now all I'm going to do is imagine this pencil line is on the other side and we'll work along that line. I'm just going to pull this up slightly. So I'll just go through, catch a little bit of the material, and then I'm going to back stitch it. Pull it so it stays nice and tight. So I'll do this all the way around, and then I'll go around a second time. Now I finished with both hands, we're going to turn our little elf body inside out. First start with your hands and push those through. And on the other side. Now you might want to take your chopstick, and this will help with the legs. So just very carefully push where the legs are coming through. Okay, now we have a little body, and we're going to take some wool roving and stuff it into the legs and a little bit in to his belly. He doesn't really need any stuffing in his arms because he has these little bits of the skin fabric that fill his arms. So just his legs and a little bit in the belly. So what I like to do is I like to make two little balls which are around about the same size to begin with. So I create a little leg shape, and then I will place that into the leg. Use your chopstick to get it right down into that leg section. Now we're going to take a bit of a larger ball, and that's going to be the belly. So something around the same size as your little elf body. Just use your thumb and your finger to stuff that down to the bottom. You don't need much more stuffing than this because they are quite soft and cuddly, these little dolls. And you also have your head, which is going to go in here and take up some of this space as well. So now we have our hood and our head. We're going to take our little head and take your hood. With the front part, this is going to frame his little face. So bring it to the front, and it's going to join at the bottom by these bits here. So make sure the back part is pushed right up against your neck. Okay, now I'm going to get my needle and thread. I'm going to thread here and then attach all the way around the neck to the skin fabric and the under part underneath here as well. I'm using this dark thread again so you can see, but I wouldn't normally use such a dark colour. I'd probably use a cream or a white. So first thing I'm going to do is just catch both ends of that little hood, and this is where I'm going to tie a knot. Now what I'm going to do is almost a running stitch. I'm just going to run my stitches all along the back and around the neck to connect the hood to the skin. Now this will be underneath, it will go inside the body, so we don't need to be too particular about it. Now I'm just going to tie a knot here to keep that nice and secure. Now what you would do with your thread is you continue stitching along the top of this line that you've already got here. I'm going to change my thread color because I don't want that being seen. I have my little elf head and I now have white thread, so I'm going to follow this stitch line, doing tiny stitches all around this little face. Now this is the time to make absolutely certain that you are happy with the position of the hood. So do a couple of little tugs and rearrangements if you need to, and then go around this stitch line and go over it twice. I now have my body and my little head ready, so I'm going to prepare the body a little bit by opening it up and using my fingers to push the wall aside a little, just to make an almost little pit or a well in there. I'm going to try to keep that open while I take the little head and push it into that little spot that I've just created. So I've got a bit of a gap here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of wool roving on each side and just put it in there where his little shoulders should be. So not much on each side, maybe about this much. Let's just see how that goes. On this side as well. Yeah, I'm a bit happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and thread, and I folded the raw edge over just once, and I'm going to secure my needle and thread through the fabric into the neck underneath. Now what you want to do is a double knot here. Now what we're going to do is ladder stitch from the body up to the hood. So grab a little bit of the hood. I'm going to go underneath the knot that you created, so we won't see it. That'll get all tucked inside. Now we're going to work all the way around, going above those threads there, and on the bottom. And just making sure nothing's getting tangled. Tuck your wool in as you get to it. And I'm just going to do a couple of stitches at the end here to bring these ends of the arm together. Now I'm just finishing the second round of ladder stitching around the neck, and then in just a moment I'll show you how to create your invisible knots, so we won't see the knot at the end. Now I'm just going to create a double knot. Make sure your threads don't get tangled here. Now what I'm going to do is right next to my knot, I'm going to insert my needle through the body, out, it doesn't really matter where, pull tight and snip. You can see that there's no cotton here and my knot isn't visible at the top. Now our little elf is just about finished. The only thing left to do for him is to give him some cheek colour. So I have a scrap of skin fabric here, and I have a red Stockmar beeswax crayon. I'm just going to rub my crayon onto my scrap piece of fabric. I did that quite hard, as you could hear. Now just fold it so it becomes like a little point, and very gently I'm just going to bring it in circles on the cheek area, and on the other side too. Now to create a little nose effect, I'm just going to rub one line going down from where I'd imagine the bridge of the nose on one side, and then again on the other side, and that gives him a little nose appearance. So the very last thing that you might like to do with your little elf is to give him a little red ribbon bow. So So I've just got some red ribbon here, which I've tangled. Okay, so all I'm going to do is tie a little knot and create a little bow. I'm just going to trim the edges so they're about the same size. And there we have it. Now our little elf has a little bow and he's all finished. I hope you've enjoyed following along with this tutorial.
Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, show your support by giving it a like. And if you'd like to stay updated with all of my new tutorials, please subscribe.